Perek Aleph, Mishna Gimel. So we've been discussing the mavoi and how there's a rabbinic prohibition on carrying within a mavoi on Shabbos unless you close off the fourth side. And one of the arrangements that the Rabbanon allow you to more easily close off that fourth side was called a korah, which was simply a crossbeam placed from wall to wall. And that acts as a recognition to separate the Rishus Harabim, from the mavoi. Now, since this korah, this crossbeam, acts as a recognition, so it needs to have some sense of permanence to it. Because if it looks like it was haphazardly placed there, so it looks like someone put it there today, is going to take it off tomorrow, it doesn't act as a recognition because it doesn't look like someone placed it there deliberately. And therefore, in order to have a sense of permanence, it needs to look like it's part of the structure. And in those days, the beams, the cross beams that they would build with, needed to have a minimal width of a tefach, meaning the width on top of the beam needs to be 1 tefach. And the reason for that is very simple, because in those days they would build with beams and bricks. Now, one of the standard bricks in those days was levanim, means bricks. One of the standard bricks had a 3 tefachim width, a 3 tefach width. Now, sometimes they would cut them in half and work with the half bricks called an areach. These half bricks are called an areach. And obviously, if the full brick was 3 tefachim, had a 3 tefach width, so each half a brick had 1.5 tefach width. And you could take these half bricks and place them on this beam, and there would be a little bit of an overlap, because these half bricks, how do you draw this? There you go. These half bricks were 1.5 tefachim wide from here to here. And the beam, the cross beam, was 1 tefach wide. Now we know that a tefach, 1 tefach is made up of 4 etzbois, 4 fingers. And so a half a tefach equals 2 fingers. And therefore, if this areach, if this half a brick is 1.5 tefachim wide, and it's placed on this beam, which is 1 tefach wide, so you end up with an overlap of 1 finger on each side. And that's okay, because in those days they would use these bricks that were a little bit wider, and they would fill in that 1 finger breadth of space with cement. And that gives this crossbeam a sense of a permanence, and looks like it was placed there deliberately, and it will act as a recognition. So let's learn that inside. HaKorah she'amru, the korah, the crossbeam that the Rabbanon allowed you to use, Rechava, it has to have a width, kidei, in order, lekabel areach, to accept an areach, a half a brick. Ve'areach, and how wide is a half a brick? It's a chatzi levena. It's a half of a larger brick, shel shlosha tefachim, which is 3 tefachim wide. So half of that would be 1.5 tefachim, or 6 finger breadths. Now, daya lekorah, it's enough for the crossbeam, shetehei rechava tefach, to have a width of 1 tefach, kidei lekabel areach, in order to accept an areach, a half a brick, leorko, on its length. If you place the areach, half a brick, on its length, on the length of the beam, on the cross beam, then you'll have an overlap of a finger breadth on either side, which is okay, because what they would do in those days, they would fill in that 1 finger breadth of space with cement. And so the korah, the cross beam, has to be wide enough to theoretically be able to hold up these bricks. And that gives the cross beam a sense of permanence, which allows you to use it as a recognition to separate the Rishus Harabim and the mavoi, and now you are allowed to carry in the mavoi on Shabbos. Now it's your turn to read the Mishnah.